We're only a month away from E3 2018, and I think Nintendo fans have a pretty safe bet what title the company will be focusing on the most this year. Dylan's Dead Hate Breakers! Yes, after all the demand and drama from fans, we're finally getting a grand trilogy capper to the armadillo that's taken the world by storm. I'm joking, the real answer is Smash for the Switch. Yeah, that announcement was kind of a shocker to me, considering the series' track record with how they schedule initial announcements. See, while Melee was announced at E3 the same year it ended up releasing, the following two sequels got revealed way farther in advance, with bigger trailers to accompany their initial announcements, and a steady drip of constant info in the months afterward, both from the daily posts on Smash Bros. Dojo, which could announce big stuff and underwhelming stuff day to day, and Sakurai's Miiverse posts for Smash 4, with character reveals generally saved for Nintendo Directs. Yet the current plan is to get this latest Smash on the shelves by the end of 2018, leaving me wondering both how much and how frequently Nintendo will reveal about new characters and features with a much shorter time frame to do so. And since it's been confirmed that it'll be the centerpiece of their E3 presentation in just a few weeks, there's no better time for me to jump on the most fun of bandwagons, and that's character speculation. Maybe more than any other series, Smash Bros. Is fun just to speculate about, from what kind of levels they can include, possible power-ups and assist trophy cameos, and of course, which familiar faces will become playable for the first time. Personally, I've experienced diminishing returns with each sequel's roster of newcomers. Most of the A-list Nintendo elites were covered by Melee, and while Brawl and Smash 4 weren't without additions that made me giddy, I've experienced an increasing number of additions that give me more of an okay, cool reaction rather than considering how niche a lot of the remaining characters I still want are, I'm looking at this realistically and putting a more unique twist on my prediction list. So rather than just one big list of those I want, I put together two separate top 5s, one for my personal picks, and one for those I feel have a more realistic shot. There actually will be some characters that qualify for both though. And just putting this on the table now, if it wasn't for their inclusion in the trailer, the Inklings would have been my number one expected newcomer without a doubt. I'm still surprised they weren't part of the Smash 4 DLC. Now, I won't lie to you all, I adore the Donkey Kong Country games. Yeah, the arcade ones were fun, 64 was alright, Jungle Beat was way better than I expected, Congo was a game, I can give it that much. But the 5 traditional side-scrollers Rare and Retro made are among my favorite gaming experiences, to the point that I briefly modded on a fan site and forum back in the early GameCube days. I wonder how they're doing now. And let me just say that if you own a Switch but skip the Wii U, you should absolutely give Tropical Freeze a look, it's phenomenal. Now, though DK has been in Smash since the beginning and we got Diddy and Brawl, the series has remained relatively light on Donkey Kong tributes outside of level additions, which means that I have a hankering for its third most iconic protagonist to get some attention. Funny. No, maybe it's because she starred in my 2 favorite games of the series, maybe it's because as a kid who never got to own a Genesis and envied Sonic owners, I consider her the closest thing Nintendo had to Tails at the time. Or maybe because you gotta respect someone strong enough to lift heavy barrels with just her hair. How does that work? But it would make me giddy for Dixie to join Smash, even if she was something of a clone character. If they just replaced her melee attacks and up B with deadly hair, we'd be golden. And since she's never used Diddy's jet barrel or peanut guns, her final Smash could obviously be dealing out maximum cringe by singing her emotional ballad from that old cartoon.
What did I do to make you leave me?
The finishing blow could be an extreme close-up, because half the character models in that thing looked ready to consume your soul. One of the most frequent criticisms of Smash 4's newcomers that I kept seeing was how heavily Fire Emblem was represented compared to most other Nintendo series. By the time DLC finished, we got 3 characters from recent entries, and for the first time, all 3 Smash veteran fighters were in the same game, since Roy was MIA in Brawl. 5 billion jokes about Smash turning into an anime pretty boy swordsman fest were born, and even though Sakurai apparently went on record saying that he wasn't interested in adding Corrin, but was pressured by Nintendo to cross-promote the character's game release, I expect we'll still be seeing at least one new fighter from the series in the next Smash. However, predictions don't seem as obvious to me as last time. There hasn't been a full-fledged new proper entry of the series since Fates, only some spin-off crossover titles and a remake with Echoes. While Almond Celica could definitely show up, I can't help but wonder if Nintendo will decide to look at earlier protagonists they skipped over, or maybe even make a deep cut and make a supporting character playable in Smash for the first time. God knows Fire Emblem has no shortage of fan favorites there. Maybe Nintendo will properly reveal that confirmed Switch Fire Emblem game at this year's E3 and have the lead from that confirmed for Smash shortly afterward. Now, I've actually been a big Fire Emblem fan since Nintendo started localizing the series in the GBA days. I'm just also of the mind that they went overboard with how many new characters from it they could cram into one game. So understandably, I'm a little less excited about even more being added here. But at the same time, there's a lot they can choose from, and while I'm among those hoping they let some other series get a bigger spotlight in newcomers this time around, I can't deny there are still some fun possibilities here. In the realm of third-party platformer series, Rayman is probably my personal favorite. His main series includes some of the best games both 2D and 3D platforming have to offer, with a quirky, creative world and trademark powers and characteristics only he can boast. And though his debut game originated on rival consoles, the Rayman series as a whole has consistently stuck around with Nintendo. As the original game eventually got handheld ports, Rayman 2 came to N64 before other home consoles, the Wii was a huge influence in reshaping Rabbids from a platformer to a motion control showcase, and every other main entry has launched on a Nintendo console the same day as the others. Hell, Legends would have been a Wii U exclusive if not for that console flopping in sales. Not only that, but Rayman has already left a small mark on Smash, as he and two friends from Legends became the first third-party characters to have trophies made for the series, despite not appearing anywhere else. With how much his 3D games rely on melee combat and how much his newer games focus on 2D movement, there's so much Nintendo could draw from if they choose to include him in Smash. His helicopter hair could work like Peach's float, his default special move could be charging up those trademark fists, and maybe other specials or his final Smash could incorporate those crazy power-ups from Rayman 3. Plus, the series has a reputation for gorgeous environments, so reimagining his forest home as an arena would be awesome to see. Ubisoft has seemed fond of Nintendo for a while now, with Just Dance being a Wii staple, to them still bothering to port stuff like Watch Dogs to the struggling Wii U, to collaborating directly with Nintendo in recent games, so taking one of their most iconic characters who seems like a perfect fit for Smash's playstyle remains one of my most hoped-for events. So with all those factors, why did I keep Rayman on my pipe dream list? Well, about those collaborations. So ironically, the main thing that I see making a playable Rayman less likely is his old enemies that ultimately blew up in the public eye bigger than he ever could. The Wii didn't just reshape the Rabbids' debut title, it also resulted in one of the system's biggest launch titles perfectly suited for the then gargantuan casual market, ensuring multiple sequels, cameos in other games, and eventually cementing them as their own independent franchise, and one mostly on Nintendo platforms. Now, I know that most older gamers have hardly ever been fond of the Rabbids' noisy slapstick nature, and their mostly minigame compilation titles. I've honestly always found them funny as characters, but never cared much for their actual games. But that whole status quo was thrown a curveball last year. The Rabbids did a crossover with Mario in a strategy RPG of all things, and it was good. It was really good. Not just the gameplay too, I saw a general increase in critics finding these dopey bunnies' antics genuinely funny. Kingdom Battle received critical praise and likely sold very well due to it being an early hit in the Switch's so far successful lifespan. Ubisoft reps have even said that it's encouraged them to discuss the possibility of more collaborations with Nintendo, so it makes logical sense that a title responsible for critics feeling positive about the Rabbids again could result in them making their way into Smash. Now personally, I think they seem tailor-made to be fun assist trophies, maybe tossing plungers at enemies or latching onto them like Pikmin to be a constant nuisance. Should they be playable though, maybe we can get one of the Mario-inspired ones making use of their laser guns and melee weapons, especially since we all know Rabbid Peach was the best character. I mean, come on. But look, Nintendo, whatever you choose to do with or without the Rabbids in Smash, I'll admittedly be at least interested in. Just watch out for my partner in podcasting, Chris. If his initial reaction to Kingdom Battle is any indication, he'll be out for blood if they're prominently featured.
Oh, I hate these things. I hate these screaming assholes.
No contest.
So last year we had not one, but two major Sonic titles. One was a critical hit, one was not. One stuck to the classic Genesis trio of Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles. One did not. What I'm getting at is that Sonic still probably holds the record for the biggest overall internet freakout for a third-party newcomer in Smash, and considering they kept him around for the fourth game, and he still got a new level, and that Sega continues to release entries in his series on Nintendo platforms, maybe Mania's success could encourage them in Nintendo to not just include Sonic again, but to add another playable fighter from his series. Now, while one constant issue people have with post-Genesis Sonic games is the ever-expanding cast of supporting and playable characters, even those who hate everything from Adventure onward still seem to have generally good opinions on Tails, Knuckles, and that original Genesis trilogy. It would be interesting to see how their individual trademarks could be interpreted as Smash moves, and how they differentiate from Sonic. Personally, I'd keep the spin dash for both, but replace the up B spring with some short flight from Tails and gliding from Knuckles. Also replace the homing attack since that's never really been their thing. And maybe make Tails lighter and faster, and Knuckles stronger and slower, or have Tails use Machine for his special while Knuckles is more reliant on melee punches. And maybe have them, I'm getting way too technical on their movesets, I should just cut this short, put him in Nintendo, and maybe give Knuckles that random awesome hat as an alternate skin.
Finding treasure is my absolute favorite pastime.
Yeah, a guy who made a bunch of derpy WarioWare Flash shorts in high school is a fan of the series? Shocker. But no joke, WarioWare is probably my favorite franchise to debut from Nintendo during their GBA and GameCube days. It took the base concept of minigames, condensed them in a manner so crazy that it's kind of genius, threw in an iconic lead, and added a ton of fun and creative side characters, and just provided a general sense of candy-colored fever dreams that only Japan seems to have down to an art. I'm a sucker for those types of anime that are intentionally crazy even by Japanese standards. Let my owning of all 76 episodes of Bobobo on DVD be proof of that. So combine that with the crazy character concepts I've mentioned, and I'm still kind of bummed out that Nintendo hasn't tried to do anything more with them. The closest we've gotten to them branching out, outside of some sporadic merchandise, is assist trophies for Kat, Anna, and Ashley in the last 2 Smash games. And with WarioWare Gold marking the first new entry in years, maybe now's a good time to give the series more exposure. An interesting thing to note is that outside of Wario himself, the games don't exactly have a clear MVP. I definitely hear the most buzz and see some tie-in stuff with Ashley. Deadpan Goth Witches will attract that kind of attention. But they're so diverse in their designs and base gimmicks that almost all of them would let the developers run wild with potential moves and gimmicks. Ninebolt could have a bunch of moves referencing Nintendo products, Mono could combine skills from her multitude of jobs, Kat and Anna could borrow a page from the Ice Climbers book, and Krieger could just be fabulous. You know what, I've decided they should definitely go with him.
Excellent!
The WarioWare series' lack of frequent new entries past smooth moves makes me think that its sales have either dwindled over time, or Nintendo's personal interest in it has gone down for any number of reasons. But I'll keep the hope alive for Smash Bros. To someday represent a franchise so unapologetically silly that even when they incorporate multiplayer, it's still madness.
Dog, 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 dog!
The original Xenoblade Chronicles had a turbulent history when it came to Western localization and the number of copies made, but its critical and word-of-mouth success were likely big factors when it came to Shulk representing the series in Smash 4. While X on Wii U seemed to have a more mixed overall reception, Xenoblade Chronicles 2 had the advantage of not only getting a more generally favorable one, but much like Kingdom Battle, being one of the first big exclusives in the Switch's lifespan. It's likely served as an introduction to the series for a large amount of people, and its continued support through updates and DLC on top of the gargantuan amount of hours one can sink into its base game has probably resulted in the series' fan base growing tremendously. And given how much combat and flashy moves are part of the series' DNA, I would be genuinely shocked if Smash 5 didn't add at least one of its leads to the roster. Now, while the list of playable party members holds many opportunities with how varied they are, my money's on the male lead Rex for several reasons. First, his primary weapon and many of his base moves bear enough resemblance to Shulk that I can see the devs doing what they did with later Fire Emblem characters such as Ike, adapting some of the fundamentals from Roy and Marth, but making enough changes for the character's moveset and playing style to feel unique. But the biggest opportunity I see for Rex to stand out is with Pyra. Now, for those who haven't played the game, certain warriors in its world can form a bond with creatures called blades that are basically living weapons, which is precisely how those two work together in battle. I could see Pyra taking a similar role to Luma or the AI-controlled Ice Climber, where you don't directly control her, but her actions are largely influenced by Rex's movements and attacks, and losing her would weaken him. Xenoblade 2 also stresses that in battle, blades are less effective the farther away they are from their partner, so I could see there being a risk-reward system to how far you'd want to split them up in Smash. You could cover more ground if they're further apart, but if you corner an opponent with both of them next to each other, you could dish out way more intense and concentrated damage. So yeah, there are a lot of possibilities for those two should they appear. Or maybe the controls and just put Zeke in.
The Zekinator!
We're good.
Many of the third-party newcomers in both Brawl and Smash 4 had at least one notable title on Nintendo systems in the past, even if they'd mainly shifted to the PlayStation, Xbox, and PC crowd in later days, Ryu and Snake being good examples. Cloud struck me as a rather odd choice because of this. Yeah, he's had minor roles in some spin-off Nintendo games like Chain of Memories and those rhythm games, but his own iconic game has never seen the light of day on anything outside of PlayStation and home computers, which made him feel out of place to me, as cool as an inclusion he was. On the other hand, realizing that Square Enix was apparently willing to lend characters to Smash made me think of my personal favorite series of theirs, and one which has had quite a few of its entries debut on Nintendo's handhelds. Combine that with its gameplay primarily being real-time melee combat, and a much-hyped new entry being released presumably around the same time as Smash 5, and there are a lot of reasons both logistically and as a fanboy I can see Sora being a plausible addition. But the main reason I'm still listing him as a personal pick is more bureaucratic and dull than anything. See, while Square Enix created the Kingdom Hearts games and its original characters themselves, part of the deal with Disney means that they have ownership of Sora and company and not Square. For all we know, the Disney reps in charge of licensing those characters could have reservations about Sora being featured in a series that sometimes gets T ratings and has featured characters from more violent stuff like Bayonetta and Metal Gear. And even if they were open to discuss it, there could be additional clauses and red tape that make Nintendo decide that it's more trouble than it's worth. I do still have hope that maybe Sora will appear in the series someday, but the logistics of licensing him are my one hang-up in making him feel like a sure bet. Like I said at the start of this video, if not for the announcement trailer confirming them, the Inklings would have gotten this spot, so instead it goes to the next most obvious pick. Which is funny because I kind of view ARMS like a sibling game to Splatoon. Sure, their gameplay fundamentals aren't too similar, but their emphasis on online multiplayer and overall aesthetic style make them give off similar vibes to me. Now I'll admit, ARMS itself didn't click with me when I played it, it just felt a bit too basic and repetitive, though I'm hopeful that possible sequels can successfully expand on things. So when it comes to the high likelihood of characters from this Nintendo fighting game showing up in another Nintendo fighting game, you'll have to forgive me for not jumping with it excitement. Bad back, you know. But to be fair, I do think ARMS has a novel core concept, and I legit love many of the concepts and designs among its roster. It's the same WarioWare principle where even though they're in a game without much plot or dialogue, what poses and utterances they still get say a lot about their personalities. What's trickier is determining who will make the cut. Springman and Ribbon Girl are the main promotional faces of the game, but I feel like I've seen more fan appreciation for characters like Ninjara, Twin Tail, Dr. Coil, and Mechanica. Their general physiques and trademark moves are also different enough to make me doubt that we'll see one character as a skin for another, though I definitely think at least one fighter that doesn't make the cut would still show up in the form of an assist trophy. For me, ARMS being represented in Smash Bros. Isn't a matter of if, but who. And that'll do it. Sorry if this feels abrupt, but this has Smash the Sonic Forces story talk as my personal record for most hours sunk into making a video, and Smash being featured at E3 in about 2 weeks could very possibly make one or more of these entry guesses redundant, so I gotta get this up real quick. Later days. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this, check out these playlists of previous gaming videos, podcasts, and animations, and consider subscribing to stay up to date on new ones. Also check out my Patreon with shoutouts in these videos going forward. Props to Andrea for becoming my first patron. You'll also get early access to podcasts, art files, and all pledges going towards software for these videos and hosting for the podcast. Also, if you recognize every random voice clip I use in this video, congratulations, you've out-nerded me.